Coming up on the program, it's all about canning. We're going to talk about what you can and can't can and the reasons behind that. Our Tell Me What You Really Think segment, items that you might want to start stockpiling for your canning projects.
And we'll also have a great interview with Christina Ward, who is a master food preserver for the state of Wisconsin. And finally, how long can you store canned items, your home canned items, on the shelf? All that and more coming up today on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast.
The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast is permeating into your ears with your host, Joey Bear.
And it could be the weeds. Some gardeners try to get all the weeds out of their garden. Other gardeners leave them in their garden. It's really a decision that you need to make. There's benefits to both sides of that. It's just something that you need to figure out what you want to do for your garden.
And Holly Bear.
Canning is a science. When you're canning, you want to make sure you follow the directions, follow the recipe, don't cut corners, don't replace things. It's crucial to you, your health, and your family.
They're professional gardeners with full-time jobs, and they're on the air now.
Welcome, friends, to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast, a podcast for the health-conscious organic gardener worldwide. You have tuned in to a very informative program. I am your host, Joy Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Bear.
Behind the TWVG microphone here at the WI Garden Media Studios in southeast Wisconsin. The information that you're going to hear is important to you, your family, your garden, and the food that you preserve. If you're tuning in, you probably already know who we are and what we do. If you're tuning in for the very first time, we thank you for joining us. For all previous podcasts, you can go to our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, click on the podcast tab at the top of the page. If you don't know who we are, we'll briefly tell you who we are, what we do, and then we'll get into what you can and can't can and the reasons behind it.
So we create weekly videos. They're high quality, high definition videos about gardening, organic vegetable gardening, what to do with the food you grow, simple home living, and even home canning. We also have a quarterly digital magazine, which we have online. It's free. You can download it. You can look it online. You can print it out, whatever you feel the need to do with.
You can also view that on your mobile devices.
And then we also have this podcast here.
And a number of other outlets that you could find us on through social media. We encourage you to click on the social media tabs or icons on the website and be part of the conversation. So let's talk about it. Most people, we're going to talk about what you can and can't can. Many of you who are of an older generation remember growing up in a world that you had a garden, and your parents had a garden, and you were either forced to participate in the activity of gardening, or you found it to be an enjoyable a hobby or a project or possibly work. And then they went and preserved and canned what they grew in that garden. Now, over the years, things have changed in the what you can and can't can and the reasons behind it, the different processes to can those items, the reasons behind it, and it's all for the sake of not getting sick or dying.
Right. So, and if you think that people don't die, maybe you might think, okay, people don't die from home canned goods anymore. No, it's 2015 and we've got good technology, but that's not true. People died even recently, and so you might want to pay attention here. If you're a canner, if you're a risky canner, you might want to think about what you're doing, what you could possibly be doing to your family or whatever. So here's we have a list here, and I got this from a website called sbcanning.com, and she's actually a master food preserver in the state of California, and she has a really great website. She's got a lot of great recipes, a lot of great tips and help and everything else. So definitely check it out, and we'll leave we'll have to put the link in the show notes for you. But a big one is
well, first of all, some of the practices that used to be okay for water bath canning. There's two types of canning for those who may be new to the world of preserving food. You've got water bath canning and you've got pressure canning. And those who are very familiar with these, at one point in history, some of the things that could be water bathed back in the day now are no longer recommended to be water bathed and now have to be pressure canned. One would be green beans. Used to be, you could water bath green beans for like 3 hours. And now...
And we're talking about like green beans straight up, not like dilly beans or pickled beans.
Yeah,
we're talking
just
about
regular green beans. Used to be, and I remember this as a child, spend hours water bathing green beans. Now, that practice is not recommended. They say don't do it. You need to pressure can those green beans for the appropriate time based on your altitude. But that's just one example. And we're going to get into some of these don't can items here on the list. And this is just some of the potential, probably hundreds and hundreds of different things that you can't can. There are certain things that you just can't can no matter how bad you want to.
Unless you have a commercial canning facility where you're making aluminum or tin cans or whatever, then that's totally different. But this is for the average home canner. So we have, one is fats. That includes like oil, mayonnaise, dairy, buttermilk, cheese, sour cream, yogurt, goat milk, animal milk, tofu, soy, any of that stuff. Obviously tofu and soy are not dairy, but you don't want to can those items. So if the recipe has it in it, you don't want to can that. It's not safe.
And could you freeze that?
Yes. You
can freeze it. So there is an alternative to not canning.
And you could even, they sell dehydrated milk. I don't know if you want to try to dehydrate your own milk, but that's an idea. Definitely something that maybe you want to look into. The next thing is...
And people go, well, what if the power goes out? Well, then you eat that stuff first. It's in the freezer.
Yeah, you better
that's the answer. You eat that stuff first.
Don't open your freezer too much.
Right. You eat the stuff that's going to go bad the soonest. You eat it first, and the stuff that's the canned goods that you have, that's what you eat last. That's just how it works.
Buy a generator.
Okay, let's go on with with some vegetables that maybe some people thought, hey, I can can this. And now they're going to realize that, no, this is not something that can be canned.
Mm-hmm. So one is broccoli, and I think it's just a matter of, I think it's a matter of texture. You could have some really funky broccoli if you try. I think it would just get too mushy.
Freeze it, blanch it and freeze it.
Yeah. So then we have Brussels sprouts. You can pickle those. Cabbage, you can pickle that or do a fermentation of a sauerkraut.
You can do freezer cold slaw.
Yeah, freezer slaw.
You can't can cold slaw, but you can do freezer cold slaw.
Cauliflower you can pickle. Eggplant you can pickle. Summer squash, so that includes things like zucchini, yellow crookneck squash, patty pan squash. You can pickle that stuff. Olives you can pickle. Lettuce, I don't know why you would try to can lettuce.
We tried to can. We froze.
We tried to make lettuce soup.
Lettuce soup, which we froze. We did not can.
Yeah.
And the end result was still not good.
No. Artichokes, mashed parsnips, mashed squash, mashed potatoes, mashed pumpkin. Now you can successfully can parsnips, squash, potatoes, and pumpkin. However, you want to can it in cubes. If you mash it and can it, it's not safe.
And pressure can only.
Can yep.
According to the recommended, according to the instructions, and based on the altitude that you are pressure canning it at. Different altitudes require different lengths of pressure canning and poundage of pressure canning.
So then we also have oats. So this is more of a grain type situation. Oats, wheat, barley, grains, rice, bread, noodles or pasta, hominy, crackers, biscuits, pie dough, or eggs. So you can't add those to recipes. So maybe you see a recipe where it's like I don't know, like a chili or something. You don't want to add the pasta. You would want to cook that pasta later.
A lasagna.
Like lasagna, yeah. So that would be pretty not good.
Now the oats, the wheat, the barley, the grains, you can get that dry storage, put it in a 5-gallon bucket, put a lid on it, put it in airtight. You're fine for literally years. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to be canning that stuff. I understand the mindset of people who want to can that, to have an instant ready, pop open the jar and eat it, but it's not safe. It's not good.
So then we have thickeners. Now, one good thickener that you can buy is called Clear Gel, and that's a good thickener for homemade pie filling. A lot of people will recommend other things, but it's going to look gross. SB Canning has an example of this on her website too, where somebody used cornstarch to make their pie filling, and it looks like raw chicken. It looks disgusting. So cornstarch is a no-no. Tapioca starch, arrowroot, flour, any type of flour, cornmeal, soup bases, packaging mix like taco mix or ranch dressing. None of that. You would want to just do because that has starches in it, and it has emulsifiers and like a stability stabilizer. Thank you. So you don't want to add that stuff. If you're gonna make a taco bean thing with meat that you're gonna pressure can, you want to make up your own taco seasoning, which you can find those online. So that's another one. Then there's food recipes.
Now, real quick, the clear gel, the clear
gel.
You can only really find that online.
Yeah, so you'd have to plan ahead for that. Then we have food recipes, and this includes things. And I know you've probably said, "Oh, my friend did that," blah blah blah. Well, maybe you don't want to die of botulism. That's just my personal preference, not to poison myself. So food recipes include things like pumpkin butter, pudding, cream soups, cream veggies, refried beans, peanut butter, pesto, chocolate made from milk solids, and quick breads. So any of those, you definitely don't want to can. Then there's mashed stuff like mashed bananas, avocados, coconut milk. That's not good either.
And let's get into and this is two more things here before we get off the subject here. Meats and candies.
Okay, so meats, it's not all meats. You can definitely can meat, but you want to avoid high-fat meat. Pate, liver, giblets, hot dogs, and meats with fillers. So you want to keep that in mind. If it's a high-fat, too high a fat, what's going to happen when you're trying to pressure can it is it's not going to properly, the process of pressure canning isn't going to get into it properly. So you want to avoid that. Hot dogs?
Yeah, we can't can hot dogs.
No.
No.
I don't know why you would. Anyway, and then candy like caramels, peppermints, marshmallows, any of that you don't want to can either. So that's kind of the list there. This is just a small list. It's a small list. I'm sure this is probably the most thorough list I've seen in regards to canning, not canning. But definitely, check out the National Center for Home Food Preservation, ball canning, and then also SB Canning has all great information. Are we able to take this list and embed it into the show notes so they have at least some kind of guidelines? I'm sure I can. Okay, so that's just some of the stuff that you cannot can, even if you know people who have canned it or you have done it yourself. And you know what? If you hate me for saying this, then send me an email. Yeah. Get some more traffic going through the website there. Yeah. So that's the thing. We're doing it not because it's we're not saying we're telling you can't can these because it's not safe. We're not telling you. We're not trying to be like Captain Killjoy. We're trying to tell you to keep you safe, and especially if you're a new canner, you want to follow the guidelines. You want to follow the most recent guidelines, and just keep yourself and your family safe. With that being said, we'll be right back after this. Kapow is an American company that grew out of the need to develop an everyday product that would help us decrease our eco footprint. Utilizing the mason jar as its foundation, Kapow has created accessories turning your mason jar into a multi-use device, drinking lids and lunchbox adapters, plus so much more. Made entirely in the USA from carefully selected food-safe plastic that is just the right thickness for both durability and ease of use. For hot and cold beverages, certified safe for all ages and dishwasher safe too. Get your Kapow accessories. Visit kapow.com. A gardener knows that the key to a good plant is its roots. With poor roots, the end result is not good. Conventional pots and trays cause roots to wrap around and become root-bound. Then you try to unwrap the roots at the time of planting, hoping not to break them. But never again with the Root Maker, a non-chemical innovation that naturally air prunes roots to create more vigorous roots. Never a root-bound plant again. Whether trees, flowers, or edibles, home garden or commercial grower, more roots means healthier, more productive plants. To get your own, visit rootmaker.com.
what you say. You say Nasala Kombucha. It'll put some glide in your stride and some pep in your step. Nasala Kombucha. Yeah.
Nasala Kombucha makes your body happy. Nasala Kombucha makes your body smile.
Hey, Scott Poirier here with GottaGrowIt.com, and I gotta tell you, I'm like nuts over anything you can grow out of the soil and eat. I'm all about growing food successfully. Currently, you're listening to Joey and Holly Baird on the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Podcast.
Welcome back to the program. If you want to know more about the sponsors you've just heard and our entire sponsor lineup, you can find more information about them at our website at thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com. Click on the podcast tab at the top of the page. Check them out. Support them because they support us in the same gardening beliefs that you should be able to grow something no matter where you live. Those links are also in the show notes below. So we've got a new segment on the program. We started this last show, and we're going to run it through the durations of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener podcast for 2015. And the segment is called Tell me what you really think. So in this segment, we're going to pick a topic. Holly and I are going to decide. We've decided on a topic, and we're going to talk about and be very candid about the topic, and be very
just open and free.
Open and free.
Okay, so we're going to talk about when people can stuff that they shouldn't can, and they just don't seem to care. It doesn't click with them, and that just really makes us mad.
So
and we kind of talk about this in the interview a little bit. But
yeah, we'll talk to Christina Ward coming up in the next segment about this. But essentially, there's canning. For those who may not be familiar how Facebook works, there are pages that you create that is your personal profile. There's community pages where everybody can see the content, and then there are group pages that are specifically targeted for specific topics, whether it be organic gardening, container gardening, or home canning. So in some of these canning groups, they are very open to asking questions about how to can things that never ever should have ever been attempted to be canned.
Right, or people are posting pictures of them canning stuff like bananas
with their canning fails.
Yeah, and it's like it's just stupid, and people are like, "Oh, give me the recipe," and it's like some crap recipe that they made up, and so they have to. It's really frustrating because it's safety. Canning is a science, and people need to realize that it's not like when you just throw together some mushrooms and potatoes and you make a good side dish. This is like you're messing with the nature and the quality and the chemistry of food. Canning is a chemistry. It's the chemistry of food. And when you do risky things with food, it's kind of like if people are all paranoid about leftovers. It's been in the fridge for 3 days. I shouldn't eat it. Or it's been on the counter for 2 hours. Maybe I shouldn't eat it. But those people probably do that, and they can stuff that they shouldn't can, like milk, and it's not safe.
Now, there's a couple of groups, and I'm not going to name them because there's no need to give them publicity for the stupid stuff that they do. But there was an image of a woman that wanted to know what went wrong because she was trying to pressure can stuffing. There was an individual that was trying to pressure can dog food.
Yeah.
Rice was another one, and I forget there was another one. But anyway, the case being, and I voice I tell them that it's wrong to do so. And in this particular group, the administrator will step in and go, now we're not here to criticize. We're here to help with the questions that the other group members have. And we're not here to tell them whether it's right or wrong. We're here to help them. We'll come to find out this individual has only been canning for about 3 years. She's an older person. And after these, and she's threatened to kick me out multiple times. Holly, you've been kicked out of most of the canning groups because of...
Not most,
well,
just
a couple of them.
But anyway, we're not trying to scare you. We're not trying to scare people into canning and not canning. But it's good to be safe. It's good to follow good, safe websites. And that's the point here. is be smart, be safe. Don't just because your friend in a Facebook group did it doesn't mean you should.
And you know, when I get in these arguments, I have to turn off the notification because they all hammer me about, oh, you know, don't listen to him. That he's just here to try to control you and stuff like that. And somebody said, do you believe everything the USDA tells you? Well, this is off the topic, but the USDA is part of the U.S. government, whom, if you or I die, we stop paying taxes, so they quit getting money. So they kind of want to keep us around because we keep putting money into the system. But anyway, after I get out of those arguments, I will get 2 or 3 private messages from individuals who say they just are in those groups just to see what goes on. And they will offer me different canning groups that are based on home safe canning. And these individuals in these groups that are canning these off the wall and wrong things, they label themselves. They have a title for themselves. They call themselves rebel canners. Mm-hmm. And it just boggles the mind that an administrator has a group that is dedicated to a specific project of canning who says, we're not here to tell anybody whether what they're doing is right or wrong or if it's healthy or unhealthy. We're here to help them with their question. And if you can't answer it, don't say anything.
Right. So, that's what we're talking about.
Is that all you got?
Yeah.
Let's close the door on this topic. All right, so let's get back to more of a happier subject here and a safer subject, I guess. When we can, there's certain materials that we need, certain items that we need to help the canning process. For example, lemon juice, sugar, vinegar, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And in addition to some devices also. So we're going to talk about some of the things that maybe you, as a canner, need to look at your stockpile and see if you do need to kind of invest in building that stockpile up with these particular items.
Right. So as we approach, you know, it's starting to be canning season. Well, not
depending on where you're at.
Yeah, depending on where you're at.
You could be canning year round.
Right. But if you're like most people or whatever,
the average home gardener, let's put it that way.
You're gonna start thinking about this kind of stuff, and maybe you already have with, you know, rhubarb coming up, asparagus coming up. Maybe you've already thought about this.
Or you've got tomatoes if you're in the far south.
Right. So what you want to think about is take a look at what you have. You know, maybe you have a specific area you keep all your canning supplies, and last fall you got kind of down to the last few canning lids or something. You want to think about that. Go through that so that when you start to... I know we've been there. One time we almost didn't have enough lids, and I thought we did, and we had wide mouth, and we needed regular mouth, and it was like, you know, we figured it out. We pulled through, and we got it, but it's good to plan ahead. So, in a lot of times these stores you'll find at hardware stores or, you know, local farm stores or whatever, that they might have the stuff on sale starting soon. I know our one large grocery store here starts to put this stuff on sale, I think like in June. I'm not really even sure, but yeah, so you definitely want to look at that. Check out rummage sales for canning jars.
Well, let's go ahead.
Craigslist, stuff like that.
Well, let's figure out what we're going to can or what we intend to can. Look at the recipe and see what of those ingredients we have on hand, and if we're going to do a large batch, what we might need to buy in bulk so we have the adequate amount, so we're not halfway through a recipe and have to go buy ingredients or actually lose what we're trying to can.
That's another thing. If it's a recipe that you make all the time, maybe you don't have pickling spice on hand. Maybe you used all of it last year.
A couple of gallons of vinegar.
Yeah, vinegar, sugar, some, you know, lemon juice. Lemon juice, check the date on your lemon juice. You may have a bottle in the back of your fridge, but if you bought that last year, maybe it's not good anymore.
And don't use fresh lemon juice.
No, yeah, you want to use your bottled lemon juice.
And what's the reason behind that? What's the
acidity level will be more consistent. So those are some things you want to think about. You know, just think about the recipes you use. If you're going to use a new recipe, make sure you read it over. You know what you're going to need. Some of this stuff, like when we make zucchini relish, you have to let that sit for 3 hours before you even get to canning it. So you want to think about that as well.
Do you have a pan that would be big enough
right.
that will hold the materials that you're going to use if you're a new canner or
Right.
or have never canned that particular type of item before. Is there a device that you need that you don't have that's going to spend the extra $6? It's going to make the whole event a whole lot more enjoyable than to have to, in this instance, the zucchini relish, have to let it sit in 5 or 6 little tiny containers because you don't have one big old bowl.
Right.
What about just running your finger across the top of the jar to see if there's any chips?
That's a good idea, too. Check your jars, especially if you have ever bought used jars. You know, you don't know necessarily how old they are. They might, check them for cracks or chips in the lid so that maybe if you have to get new ones or something, you can do so.
So that's pretty much just a little bit of maybe what you didn't think about when it comes to building up your inventory for your canning. And if you've got stuff that's really old, you might old rings, you might want to get rid of those. If you've got some old ingredients, update those to fresh ingredients so the science of canning can be done correctly, and there's no doubt that what you're canning is safe to can.
Right.
We'll be back right after this with Master Food Preserver Christina Ward, where we're going to tackle some of the questions that many people have when it comes to canning. We'll ask a professional so you know what the right answer is. Right after this. If you could double the life of your raised bed boxes by sealing the wood with a non-toxic wood preservative, would you? Well, now you can with a clear, penetrating product called Internal Wood Stabilizer. It's 100% non-toxic and easy to apply. Seal your bare, untreated wood surfaces, even chicken coops, by spraying Internal Wood Stabilizer. It's invisible, seals the wood from the inside out, and never wears off. Recommended by organic gardening experts. Internal Wood Stabilizer. Check it out at timberprocoatings.com.
Do you want your next raised beds to be easy, functional, and beautiful? The Embrace helps you create the garden you've always wanted. Finally, raised beds that everyone can assemble and enjoy. No tools needed. Just slide any lumber into the Embrace corner, fill with your favorite soil mix, and you're ready to plant. Made from 100% recycled steel right here in the USA. And a portion of every sale helps to build school and community gardens all across the country. Let the Embrace help you create your next raised bed. Grow beautifully with the Embrace. Available at local garden centers and online at artofthegarden.net.
Paradigm Garden, Wisconsin's largest progressive gardening center. Located in Madison, Wisconsin, Paradigm Gardens offers the largest selections of soil amendments, organic and salt-based plant nutrients, grow lights, and hydroponic systems available in the Midwest. Our knowledgeable and experienced sales staff are always available to help. Visit our new website, www.paradigmgardens.com, or visit our retail store at 4501 Helgeson Drive, Madison, Wisconsin, just off Stoughton Road.
Hello, this is Sean James Cameron from the Horticultural Channel based in London, England, giving you practical gardening advice for the amateur gardener. Check us out at thehortchannel.tv. But right now we're going to join Joey and Holly Baird on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. For those of you who want to know more, and we encourage you to check out those sponsors you've just heard in our entire sponsor lineup, you can visit the website, wisconsinvegetablegarden.com, and click on that podcast tab at the top of the page. Support them because they support us in the same gardening beliefs.
We want to welcome Christina Ward. She is a certified master food preserver through the state of Wisconsin. She teaches many classes on the art of canning, food preservation, and lactofermentation. She also creates and develops recipes for canning, and she sells her delicious jams at local farmers markets. I've definitely learned a lot from her myself. Welcome to the program, Christina.
Good afternoon, everyone.
It's a pleasure to have you on.
Now, why did you become a master canner?
Well, the master canner, master food preserver is actually a designation from the state of Wisconsin. It's a remnant. It's a great old program actually started right at the turn of the last century with the idea of, part of the Wisconsin idea of all the universities in the Midwest, the land-grant universities. The idea was to educate citizen experts who can then disseminate the latest and greatest and most current up-to-date scientific practices in agriculture, in floral and vegetable, as well as then animal husbandry, injury, and of course food preservation techniques. That program then works then designating a master food preserver, a master canner for each county, and then that person is that citizen expert who acts as then a liaison to help get the information out from the university, as well as act as a resource for the community with teaching and answering questions. So folks anytime they call me or send me emails and say, my jelly won't set, and I try to help out the best I can.
Now, you said you're for the county. Now, is there only so many master canners per location, or can any of our listeners, no matter where they're at in the country, go to their local extension and find out if they can be a certified master canner through the proper courses?
Yes, the Master Food Preserver program is throughout the United States, but it is administered through county and state extension agencies. So some counties may not be on board with the program. For example, there were definitely a Master Food Preserver in Oconto County, but the state had determined for a long time Milwaukee, being an urban county, wasn't in need of one. So I actually lobbied the state for 3 years to be able to participate and get the designation and, of course, then do the work. Because, of course, Milwaukee and southeast Wisconsin is at the leading edge of some of the urban agriculture movements. So it's definitely something. There are traditionally, depending on the size of your county, either 1 or 2 people who are then the trained designated master food preservers. And so it's definitely, if you've been canning a long time and you have a passion for teaching and for assisting your neighbors, I definitely recommend calling your local extension office and inquiring about the Master Food Preserver program.
Now, when it comes to canning, we always tell people that canning is a science and it's very important to be safe. Why is canning so important with the safety of it?
Well, the safety of it is, and you've got it exactly right, there is science involved. The whole idea of food preservation is about essentially saving it from its natural state of decay. And part of a natural state of decay is that it becomes a home for pathogens, for germs that will make you sick. And so again, that science is to change the state of the food to, one, make it taste good, of course, but then again, be a place that's still safe for long-term storage, but not a place where germs are going to grow. In addition to that, why it's so critical to follow the safest procedures, the latest in the science out there, is a lot of times it's easy enough to, say, open a jug of milk and you can smell right away if something's gone off and you're not going to eat it. But unfortunately, there's pathogens that are related to long-term food storage that you cannot see and you cannot taste. And those are the ones that will kill you. And so because of that chance, and again, it happens very rarely, but it still happens. Every year in the United States, there are cases of course, what we're talking about is botulism. And Campylactor will also make folks quite sick, and if untreated, up to death. So again, that safety is so critical because, again, do it wrong, and there's a very small chance someone could die.
Now, Christina, I don't know how frequent you're on social media, but we're members of multiple gardening groups or canning groups on Facebook, and there's several of them that deem themselves internally as rebel canners, and I've gotten in multiple arguments with these individuals, and Holly's got kicked out of several groups because these individuals, they don't care if it's right or wrong. They they try to can stuffing, they try to can bananas. One person was trying to pressure can dog food, and I get in arguments, and I send links to them, and basically the administrator says, we don't tell people what's right or wrong. We just help them with their problems. Now, with that being said, you touched on it a little bit there just a few moments ago, the severity of the USDA, the National Food of Home and Food Preservation, government agencies. Many individuals may not like the government, but they have regulations set up to keep people from dying.
Absolutely they do. And this is, I'm reminded again, I'll mention there's a wonderful lady up in Oconto County, Wisconsin, and I did some training with her, and she just would eventually just shake her head and say, God's going to get tired of watching over you. Because fundamentally, this does come down to the science. Sure, there's a lot of folks that say, well, my grandma did it this way and no one ever got sick. Great, good, I'm glad. But at the same time, let's recognize the science here, which is there are millions more pathogens, and as well as pathogens that have mutated that are around today that were not there in, say, the 20s, 30s, 40s. Also, our individual gut biomes, what we're learning about the good flora that live in our guts, that is also changing. There's also, it varies from region to region throughout the United States, not to mention the world. So having a uniform practice of safety at all times will help everyone stay safe and not get sick. There's a lot of times that people will often ascribe saying just that old sour stomach or 24-hour flu when it's not that at all. It's actually something that's foodborne, and we're just not aware of it.
Now, you teach a number of classes in the Milwaukee area. For people who are interested in learning about the art, the science of preserving the foods that they grow or get at the local farmers market, what are good resources that you can provide where they can look in their own region, area, county, to take classes no matter where they're at in the country?
Well, one of the things, and you mentioned it earlier, was the Center for Home Food Preservation. And the Center for Home Food Preservation is based out of the University of Georgia at Athens at UGA. So it's a really easy Google search for just the Center for Home Food Preservation. On their website, they have infinitely available downloadable documents about how to do it safely, as well as safe and tested recipes on every type of canning you can imagine, from the very basic food preservations in a syrup to some of the more complicated doing low-acid meats in a pressure canner. Now, again, many folks have in states with large university systems also have the extension office that has the home and family, and the food preservation information is found there. The other really great resource is the Ball Canning Company. They are one of the last American-based jar manufacturers. They're in Muncie, Indiana. And of course, because of that's their business, they do a heck of a lot of testing on recipes and product. So if you search for the Ball Canning website and go, or if you might find it in a store, one of their Ball Canning books, those are great beginning resources to get started. A note on that, sometimes it's fun to go to thrift stores, and I'm a cheap person myself and try to spend as little as possible. But if you're buying old canning books, make sure you take note of the date and only use books that are published after 1994. 94 is what the official cutoff date is. And that's when, of course, we're looking to get the most up-to-date, scientifically sound practices.
Now, people, you brought up pressure canning. People use pressure canners, and as the older generation remembers that pressure canners would explode and the horror stories there is you do want to check and take your pressure canner to be, I guess, certifiedly checked every couple of years, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We recommend pressure canners, especially there's a few maintenance things to do. And you have to think of a pressure canner, it's a tool like a chainsaw. Just as your chainsaw requires maintenance, so does your pressure canner. And honestly, just like your chainsaw, accidents happen not so much because the machine failed, but the human failed operating the machine. So what we recommend is if you have a dial gauge canner, which is the canner, you'll know you have a dial gauge canner because it has a gauge on it. That should get tested every 2 years to make sure that it's still accurate. And if you have a canner that just has a jiggler, that has a small weight on it that makes the noise, those have rubber seals. And we recommend that you check those seals at least once a year and make sure they're not dried out, of course, because the dry seal won't actually create the pressure. And those are all parts that if they do fail, they're easily and cheaply replaceable.
And it goes without saying, but I will ask you the question anyway. You spoke about the Ball Canning Company. There's a lot of jars floating around at yard sales, thrift stores, etc. But there's a certain type of jar that you only should use for canning, regardless if it was used for canning at one point or another, and that's the certified mason jar.
That's absolutely correct. People will often try to recycle, say, an old peanut butter jar or a pasta jar. And those jars work for dry storage, but we do not recommend using those for canning at all. And the reason is the glass that's used for those is made to go through their canning process one time. Whereas canning jars, mason jars for home canners, are specifically manufactured to be used infinitely, to be used over and over again. So if you try to use an old jelly jar, like a Smucker's jar or a pickle jar, you run a risk of having that jar crack and explode in your canner. And, not only is it somewhat dangerous, you lose all the hard work of the stuff that you just made.
Right, and it doesn't, and I'm sure you cringe at some of the things you see on videos that people do. It was about a year ago, something like that, a lot of the preppers or survivalists were taking old pickle jar lids or old lids that weren't, the two-piece lid, and recanning and getting them to seal. And they said, I don't recommend this, but I wanted to make sure it worked in case I was in a situation where I needed it and I didn't have any canning lids. That seems like a horrible idea even to experiment with.
It is a horrible idea, and here's a better way for that solution, is for folks who are preparing for, whatever they're preparing for, there's a number of brands that are working and coming back on making recyclable, reusable lids. That the flat part that sits on the canning jar is of a BPA-free type material, and it uses old-fashioned rubber rings. Those can be boiled and reused infinitely. So if your concern is about access and reusability, I would definitely recommend those types of canning lids. One of the brand names that just off the top of my head is called Tatler, but I do know that there's other companies working and coming out with versions of those types of lids.
Fantastic. Well, we want to thank you for coming on the program. And if people have questions and, maybe why their jam doesn't set or if they can use their grandmother's recipe, how can people get a hold of you?
I am easily findable on Facebook. If you just Facebook Kick Out the Jams Milwaukee, you will find my Facebook page. There, my phone number will be listed on that page. And I'm happy to get it out to people. Really, call me and I will do my very best. I have answered questions from Arkansas to Oklahoma to Ohio. Just if you don't live in Milwaukee County and you get a hold of me and you need help, I will definitely help everybody.
Well, thank you very much, Christina, for all the valuable information and coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
And we'll be right back after this. Looking for a fast-acting, non-toxic weed killer for your organic garden? One that works in cool and cloudy conditions as low as 40 degrees and is highly biodegradable with visible results in less than 2 hours? Then look no more. Avenger Weed Killer has it all and more. Made from oranges, Avenger is highly effective, easy to use, and has a pleasant citrus aroma. It is OMRI listed and approved for organic gardeners under the USDA's National Organic Program. Avenger Weed Killer is a choice for organic gardeners and homeowners who are looking for an effective, safe way to control unwanted weeds. Available in ready-to-use sprays and concentrate, ask your local lawn and garden supplier for Avenger Weed Killer. For more information and a list of suppliers, visit AvengerOrganics.com. Avenger Weed Killer, eco-friendly, deadly to weeds.
It's all about the soil at ManureT.com. With their grass-fed, antibiotic, and growth hormone-free cattle and horses, owner Annie Haven puts the quality in her premium soil conditioner. 100% organic and natural, whether feeding your flowers or veggies, indoors or out, you can grow organically with confidence. To purchase authentic Haven brand Manure Tea, small orders or large, go to ManureT.com. Always free shipping.
It's Joey
and Holly Baird
of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast, taking a moment to remind you that you can sign up for a weekly email so you don't miss anything that we do, our podcast, our videos, our digital quarterly magazine. You won't miss anything by signing up.
Just go onto our website on the right-hand side. There's a big button for you to press. Just go ahead and sign up for our emails.
And you can also ask us questions. Underneath that big green button, there's a big red button. So sign up for our emails for free. No spam, and if you've got a question, you can send us that as well. WisconsinVegetableGardener.com for the health-conscious organic gardener worldwide.
I'm Mike Novak from the Mike Novak Internet Experience, and a day without Joey and Holly Baird is like a day without the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast. Wait, that's the same thing. Oh well, here they are.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. If you want to know more about the sponsors you've just heard and our entire sponsor lineup, you can find them at our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com. Click on the podcast tab at the top of the page. Those links are also in the show notes below. Check them out. Support them because they support us in the same gardening beliefs that you should be able to grow something anywhere you live. See if they have something that will help you out in your garden. We're not done yet. We've got 2 more important topics to cover before we get out of here this week. One is gardening in 2 minutes, and we're also going to talk about when you should throw out those canned goods, empty the jars out because they've been sitting on the shelf too long. Gardening in 2 minutes is an audio production that Holly and I produce on a weekly basis for a number of podcasts and several radio programs. If you would like gardening in 2 minutes on your particular program, contact us through the website. There's a contact button at the top of the page.
This Gardening in 2 minutes is all about urban homesteading.
This Gardening in 2 minutes is sponsored by DollarSeed.com. Holly's seeds don't have to cost a fortune. They just have to cost $1 at DollarSeed.com. With 172 varieties of flowers, vegetables, and herbs, DollarSeed.com has something for you and always in stock. And here is Gardening in 2 minutes. This is Gardening in 2 minutes. The term homestead brings images of a lot of land in the country, but you can homestead with very little land, or even if you live in an apartment.
Yes, definitely. You can do things like you can grow food in containers, on a balcony, on a patio, on any sort of space you have. You can also look into an indoor growing setup. And if you can't do that, maybe you don't feel that you're able to, you can definitely get things from the farmer's market, and then you can use that to preserve that harvest. Other things that you can do to homestead without land is you can learn how to become more self-sufficient, bake your own bread. If you eat bread, cook for yourself. Perhaps maybe invest in a CSA, which is a community-supported agriculture, and they have all sorts of CSAs now. They have ones for vegetables, for dairy, for meat. So these are things that you can still do to become more self-sufficient.
You can also make products that you use on a daily basis, whether that be cleaning products or your own laundry powder or laundry detergent.
You can definitely do that. You can also look into, perhaps at some point, if you want to look into a community garden where you have your own garden plot or an allotment. That way you can continue to grow your own food as well.
There's a multitude of different new technology that's available that you could incorporate into your living space, such as solar panels that can be attached to the inside of windows to reduce the amount of energy you're using, as well as other wonderful technologies that you can do that simply will help you reduce your living costs and make it a little more easier on the environment. For more information on how to be homesteading without land, our weekly video productions, as well as our free downloadable digital quarterly magazine, you can find all that information at
theWisconsinVegetableGardener.com.
For the health-conscious organic gardener worldwide. For Gardening in 2 minutes, I'm Joey Baird.
And I'm Holly Baird.
Urban homesteading can be done pretty much no matter what living arrangements that you've got. So let's talk about, before we wrap the show up here, Holly, let's talk about, since you're an award-winning canner and you know a lot, and we've had Christina Ward on, who is a master canner. The question that people have, and this Master Food Preserver, the question a lot of people have is, hey, I found this jar of fill in the blank on the back of the shelf from 3 years ago. Can I still eat it? Can I still use it? Can I still make whatever it is? Can I eat it?
Right. Well, you probably can, but
now
before we say yes or no, keep in mind we're going to have 2 resources here for you. One is from Ball Canning, which is freshpreserving.com, and the other is from the Utah State Extension. And your state extensions have really great information, most of them. But the big thing is that,
and we're going to tell you what we found. If you choose to go ahead and eat whatever that item is, we're not responsible for what happens to you, because you still, even though we're telling you what we're seeing and what research we found, you still have to be responsible for your own individual health and your family.
Right.
All right.
So basically, here's what happens. I've always heard a year. Now, you can something July 12th of 2014, July 12th of 2015. like that. Is it going to go bad? No, it's not going to go bad.
But you look at nature. You look at nature. Yeah. Things are in year cycles.
Right. So, so here's what happens: is that after 1 year, natural chemical changes occur within canned foods, and this could lessen the quality. This could also change the color, the texture, the nutritional value, and it all depends on how you store it. Now, canned goods should be properly stored. You want to store them without the rings. You want to store them away from direct sunlight and in average room temperature, ideally, so that it's not too hot, not too cold. And obviously,
or like could it be a basement where it's kind of a chillier place? Okay.
Now, obviously, we don't have all those ideal conditions sometimes, but just keep that in mind. So that's kind of the thing is it's about a year, and then if you do, say it gets to a year and a half, 2 years, it's not the worst thing, but you always want to follow first in, first out. If there's just 2 of you in your household and you're canning for 4 people or 6 people, then maybe you need to think about what you're canning, give it away, or not give it away to give it away to people you know.
Or figure out different items that you can make with that particular fruit or vegetable.
I think for us, I know like the first year we ended up with a lot of stuff that we didn't necessarily use, and we did unfortunately have to dump some, but we were kind of canning happy, and had that our garden produced extremely well. So that's something to keep in mind, is the amount of time, and also how it's stored, and then over time it will lose, the chemical qualities will change, and it will lose nutrients, it will lose quality, it will lose the whole science, the chemistry, and that food will change.
Now, I'll bring the topic up because I know some of you listeners are thinking this, and some of us have seen videos of this particular happening. Preppers will either store food for long term, or somebody has passed away and they go through their food storage, and they've got something, pears or apples or peaches that are from 18 years ago. And the label says, whatever, 18 years ago. And they open it up, and it smells like peaches. It smells like the item that it was intended, what it was. And, I'll try it, and if it tastes okay, I'll go ahead and eat it. This is not a good idea.
No, because you can't smell botulism.
And I'll make a pie out of it. This is, again, not a good idea. The glass jars are perfectly fine to pour the contents out, sanitize them, and use them again to try to eat that cup and a half of apples or pears or whatever.
Are you really that cheap that you might risk your life for 32 ounces of pears? Are you serious? Really?
Yeah, but that's the thing, that it's you've got to think of this.
Use your common sense. I know the work has been done. It's cool that you found great Aunt Mabel's canned pie filling on the shelf.
From 1997.
Show her the respect, unless you want to meet her in heaven within the next 24 hours. Show her the respect that you're going to keep her jar, but dump the food in it.
So, in conclusion here, first in, first out, and the guidelines, the rule of thumb, 1 year.
About 1 year.
About 1 year.
Now, the Utah extension, which we'll put this in the show notes, says 2 years. So that's another good guideline as well. So, but just first in, first out. Don't push it. Just definitely keep in mind that the quality does change over time. But is it immediately going to be not edible after exactly 1 year? No. But that's at that point, stuff does start to change.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you tuning into the program. We hope that you have gathered some information in regards to canning, safe canning, and that you can protect the health of your family more now than you did prior to listening to the episode. So that will wrap the show up for this week. Again, for past episodes, you can find all of them underneath the podcast tab at the top of the page of the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com website. If you have any questions, concerns, comments in regards to canning or other topics that you have heard of us talk about, feel free to send us an email. There's a contact button again on that page on the website. The audio that you've heard, the music that you've heard in the program, we use freesfx.co.uk, and audioneutronics.com, two free, royalty-free, and copyright-free websites that we use to help liven up the podcast.
And also, our audio comes for the Nest Alec commercial and Paradigm Gardens commercial. That audio comes from them directly.
Until next time, I'm Joy Baird.
And I'm Holly Baird.
And we will see you in the garden. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast is a production of the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com for the health-conscious organic gardener worldwide, and distributed in association with WI Garden Media.